it is time to start. Hello, everyone. My name is Kara Moncrief, and I am the Clinical Director for Fiora. And today's webinar is actually going to be a shorter one. I know I say that all the time, but today it really is true. It is going to be a shorter webinar. I would say about 30 minutes because we are not going to be going through the full system of the DermaFuse, but instead we are going to be going through the LipoElim serum. If you hear a dog barking in the background, I do apologize. I thought if I locked my dog up, it would help things. But I had to turn off like the TV and the sound, so he may be hearing people walk by, and I am just so sorry for that. He has been silent for all of my webinars, and I have been so thankful and so grateful for that, but I knew it would happen one day. Okay, so I am going to briefly go over the DermaFuse unit, but we do have a webinar that goes through it in greater detail for sure. But today it's going to be for our brand new serum that we're super, super excited to have. And it's just going to be a really wonderful combination treatment for if you already have the V form and you're already treating cellulite and contouring, this is just going to be something that's just a huge benefit to pair with it. And then also it can be used as a standalone, and we get really great results as a standalone too. But of course, when you do combination, it just gets that much better. All right, so now I am going to share my screen with you guys and a short PowerPoint that I created. So let me get that pulled up. All right, so we'll get started now, and I'm just going to do a brief overview, like I said, of the DermaFuse. You know what? Let me just do something really quick here. I wanted to make sure that I, whoops, pinned my video. I don't know what just happened. That's weird. Okay, let me stop sharing and figure this out. Okay, sorry. Somebody else popped on and it just like knocked off my, I was pinning my video. Okay, I think now it's gonna be okay. So sorry about that. Okay, so now I'm gonna go back to sharing my screen. Okay, let me get started, sorry. Okay, so rewind and now start again. Okay, so brief overview of the DermaFuse system. So here's what the DermaFuse looks like there on the right of your screen, and it's based on ion fuse technology, which I'll briefly cover. The DermaFuse comes with two hand pieces, one for the face, one for the body. So you would think, like when you're using this ampule, the LipoElim serum, that you will just be using the body handpiece, but it works really well for the face too. So we'll talk about that as well. But of course, you'll probably be using the body handpiece quite a bit with this serum. And the serum is double the size of the regular facial ampules. So like intensive hydration, collagen booster, if you guys already own the DermaFuse and already using those serums, it will be double the size of those, which is great. So you can treat a full abdomen, you know, full back of legs, and only needing to use just one serum. Okay, so face and body. And then, of course, the DermaFuse systems come with all of the ampules. So the intensive hydration, the collagen booster, the bright, the smooth, and now we have another one to offer, which is the LipoElim, and that's what our focus will be on today. And then each box of serums comes with 30, so it's 30 serums, and if you get all 5 of the serums and you equal that out, that equals to be 150 treatments. So, and then of course it comes with a user manual. All right. So I'm going to go into this in more depth on the next slide, but I just wanted to do a quick overview of the ion fuse technology. So the ion fuse technology is a specific and proprietary algorithm. It's proprietary to Fiora, to where we have figured out the perfect way of having a specific waveform, rate, repetition rate, and the number of peaks within our electrical current and our waveform to have perfect skin cell permeability. And that means that we are allowing liquids to enter into, first of all, our skin's tissue, but then secondary, that we are able to take these liquids, these serums, these vitamins, these minerals, these ingredients, and actually put them into the cell. And it's going to provide a very deep penetration. We can penetrate all the way up to 10 centimeters deep. I know that's like, wow. And it's the truth, which is phenomenal. And that's why we can work so well with fat now that we have the LipoElim serum. We're working all the way into the fat hypodermis or subcutaneous tissue. Okay, so this next bullet, I'm going to talk about that in more depth on the next slide, of how we get that structural rearrangement of the lipid bilayer that protects the cell, and how we can actually create micro channels and pores through the cell to get all of those serums inside of it, and then it reseals. So that's going to be important, that we need to take specific ingredients and put it into a fat cell, because we're able to like block signals and stimulate lipolysis, things like that. So I'll talk about that in just a bit. But I really like this slide just because, oh, and then quickly, sorry, I forgot to hit it one more time. There was one more bullet, that the microchannels are short-lived. So as soon as we stop doing the treatment, then those microchannels, those pores will immediately close up. So it's nothing that's dangerous to any of the cells in our body, in our skin, or in our tissue, because it's transient pores. And again, that's based on the algorithm that we use. But I like this slide because it gives a really nice visual of how we're creating those microchannels through that really thick stratum corneum barrier, because the stratum corneum barrier, it is made up of 15 to 30 dead skin cell layers. And that is a really, really strong barrier to get through. And there's a reason for that, right? We need that barrier in life. We need that barrier to keep, environmental factors and pathogens out of our skin. So it's strong, but we're able to penetrate through that. And I just really like that visual and showing that we're actually creating microchannels in the skin. We're not using existing pores. We're not using our sebaceous gland pores or our hair follicles, anything like that. We are creating actual transient pores through the stratum corneum barrier, through the skin, and then all the way to the skin cells. So this is where I'll go into it in more detail here. All right, so our technology is using high voltage electrical current. We're using over 100 volts of electricity. You need to use between 100 to 150 volts of electricity and it's very high voltage, but you need that because that is, if you're at 100 volts or over, that is enough voltage to actually get through all of the dead skin layers of the stratum corneum barrier. So that's why it's so important. And then it creates these transient pores to the skin and into the cell. So I'll explain the cell, and the picture that you can look at that will really make the most sense is this one here, and then this one right below it. So first I'm going to talk about this photo here. This is a photo of showing what a phospholipid bilayer looks like around a cell. So cells need protection, right? If we didn't have protection of the cells, things would be going in it and out of it, and we wouldn't be living or functioning. So there needs to be protection. And then the body and signals, chemical signals, will tell a cell when to open and receive certain ingredients, or when to open up and release different things into our skin, into our bloodstream, so on and so forth. For example, adipocyte cells, those are our fat cells. Well, fat cells they'll get a signal to release glycerol and fatty acids out of the fat cell and then into the bloodstream to then use it to burn as fuel. So if our heart needs energy or fuel, if our muscles need energy or fuel, our whole body needs fuel and energy. So that's one way that it's getting it is it's those signals to the adipocyte cells, and then they release the glycerol, and then all of it's broken down and travels through the bloodstream, and then it's burned into energy. It goes to places where the body needs to burn energy. So that's just an idea, but the chemical signals in the body does that, on its own naturally. So this technology is based on a Nobel Prize winning discovery, and it was based in 1909, and it was a German professor who wanted to find a way of putting DNA into a cell without puncturing it. Because of course you can puncture it with a needle and insert it yourself, but he wanted to find a way of not being able to puncture it, but still get the DNA inside a cell. And he came up with this. It's called electroporation. And that's what we're now using for cosmetics is electroporation. So we have two lipid they're called bilayers. So two meaning two. So they're phospholipid bilayers, two of them. And we have a hydrophilic head. So that's what you're seeing right there. And it's kind of, those arrows are pointing to it. And then we have two fatty acids that are connected to the head. And those fatty acids are hydrophobic, meaning they don't like water. So the fatty acids, the two tails, hydrophobic, do not like water. The head is hydrophilic, meaning it loves water. So it can thrive in, like, let's say, extracellular matrix. Extracellular matrix is made up of so many glycosaminoglycans, which are water enriched, like hyaluronic acid. And because it's all water-based in the extracellular matrix, the hydrophilic heads are happy and they can kind of move around and jive well with all of the water elements that is surrounding it. But the water or anything in the extracellular matrix, these different glycosaminoglycans, such as like hyaluronic acid, it's not able to just dive right into a cell unless the cell allows it. And the reason for that is the hydrophobic, not liking water, there's two layers there that's protecting the cell and making sure that it doesn't go inside. So with our ion fuse technology and that perfect algorithm, when we're doing the treatment, we create a rearrangement of those. So when we're starting to do that with that high voltage electricity, they start to rearrange and they start to move inward. And then they end up like this. So the heads are all right here. All the heads that love the water are here and here. And then the fatty acid tails are inside here. So now we have an opening. And everything that is outside of the cell and inside of the cell has to love water because all of this is hydrophilic. And our serums are water-based. So it's great. Water moves through electricity very well. We know that. I always joke, like, I'm not going to get into the bathtub with my blow dryer, no matter how late I'm running for anything, because we know that electricity moves through water too well, which is a positive here because we're using a high voltage electricity that the serums and that electricity just work really well together and it just travels really well. And then because our serums are water-based, they're going to very easily enter into the cell because now the cell looks like this. Everything is hydrophilic, loves water, everything's great, harmonious. Then when we stop doing the treatment, these start to rearrange back to normal, and now it's protected again with that hydrophobic tails being intact. Okay, so that's how that works. Now, and then that's what skin cell permeability is. I added this slide just to remind you guys of our depth of penetration. So first of all, our percentage of penetration is phenomenal. So up to 1 centimeter deep, which is very deep, we're getting 99% absorption ability. And then all the way up to 6 centimeters deep, which is very, very deep, we're getting all the way up to 65% absorption ability. So that's huge. And think about, like, when we're treating fat on an abdomen or fat on the lower face, we are really, reaching beyond that depth and really getting a huge absorption ability into those fat cells to be able to make a huge difference for cellulite and contouring. So it's not just our superficial skin like the epidermis, it's penetrating deep, and it's going to work just as well as you guys have been seeing your intensive hydration serums work and your collagen booster serums work and your bright serums work. It's going to work just as well with the LipoElim because we do have that depth of penetration, and that's huge. I'm not going to talk about these others because I talked about that on the DermaFuse's webinar, and just wanted to promise you guys not to go into too much depth in this one. Okay, so just a reminder of the skin structure. So I didn't add the epidermis slide in here just because we don't need to talk about it, just because it's the LipoElim webinar and we're not dealing with the epidermis with the LipoElim serum. But we are dealing with the dermis. So I'm going to break down quickly the dermis and the hypodermis, and then I'm going to talk about cellulite too, so it all makes sense and it can all come together for you and understand like why does the serum work so well. So the dermis is made up of two layers. We have the papillary dermis and the reticular dermis. The papillary dermis is a little bit smaller, thinner than the reticular dermis. The reticular dermis is much thicker. They're both made up of collagen and elastin. Huge proteins within the skin. They also both house those glycosaminoglycans, GAGs for short, which is vital for the amount of moisture in our skin. So one of the glycosaminoglycans that you guys probably already know well is hyaluronic acid, and that holds 1,000 times its weight in water. So it retains moisture, it holds moisture into the skin, it locks in moisture. And of course, the more hydration we have to our tissue, the more youthful we're gonna look. And also, it also helps the appearance of cellulite. So we'll talk about why and how that is when we get to that slide. The main component of the dermis is going to be the fibroblast cells. So there's fibroblast cells everywhere in the papillary and reticular dermis, but they're also found in the hypodermis. So that's going to be important too. And when fibroblast cells are stimulated, that is what produces all of our collagen. So when fibroblast cells are stimulated, they run over to an area, they start to secrete collagen fibers, which are made up of amino acids. And then the body naturally will break down old collagen as well. So we're just replacing it with new, therefore getting thicker skin, stronger skin, and taut skin. So that's going to be important to know is that word taut, because that's what we want to do is make our skin very taut. I think someone just knocked on my door. I just heard a knock. I'm going to ignore that and try to ignore my dog barking at them. So I'm so sorry. It was bad timing right then. Okay, so that's going to be the dermis. Now we have the subcutaneous. All right, we're really focused on the subcutaneous with the LipoElim. So the cells within the subcutaneous is going to be fibroblast cells, right? Because we have collagen in the hypodermis as well. That's what's keeping like everything strong, and all of those fat cells are sitting in and around that collagen. But that's what gives us really that strength of our skin. Adipose cells, those are our fat cells. And then I won't go through, the things that are helping us with like fighting infection and that kind of thing, because we're just going to talk cosmetically on this one. If you want to learn more about that, I did a webinar on Skin 101 talking about every cell within the skin. Okay, then we have loose connective tissue, lobules of fat. The subcutaneous is going to be larger than the dermis. I'm sorry, I did not mean to say that. Larger blood vessels in the dermis. So we have much larger blood vessels in the hypodermis. They get smaller into the reticular dermis, even smaller into the papillary dermis, tiny, tiny, tiny. And then they stop at very tiny capillaries in the papillary dermis. Epidermis is avascular. So like if you scratch yourself and you do not bleed, you're only reaching into the epidermis. But the blood vessels will get much larger and larger as it gets deeper into the body. Okay, and then of course we have lymphatic vessels. that are found in the dermis and the hypodermis, which is going to be very important. We're going to talk about lymphatics and how the LipoElim works with that as well. Fibrous bands anchoring, sorry, my picture is in the way, so I can't even see that. My camera's in the way, I couldn't see it. Anchoring the skin to the deep fascia. Then we have, of course, the fat is there, nerve endings, and muscle. Okay, so we will move on. Now, how do we get cellulite? So LipoElim is one of the main things that it treats is cellulite. So understanding why and how we have cellulite is going to be a huge importance. So you can really understand, like, how does this machine work and how does the serum work with cellulite? Like, why am I getting such a huge improvement with my clients? Okay, so over 86% of women have cellulite. I think it's even a higher percentage now, and under 8% of men do. It's so unfair. But the reasoning behind it, and I added a really nice photo in my Skin 101 webinar of it, is that men just naturally have a lot more collagen than us. And everything is just really, really, really lots of collagen and going in every different direction. And they have a lot more strength to their skin, where women, we have a lot less. So when you look at their connective tissue or their septae in the hypodermis layer of the skin or subcutaneous layer of the skin, it looks like really tight basket weaving of collagen. So when they gain weight, it's really hard for them to have any type of a dimpling effect because they have collagen that almost looks like a pineapple, and it's very controlled. So when their fat cells increase in size, that collagen and that strength that they have to that layer of their skin and above that is really holding those fat cells down into place, to where on the opposite side, women, our septae are first of all, we don't have as much collagen and not as much strength. And then our septae are shaped like a U. So when our fat cells enlarge and increase, they start to fill up that area and start to really push on the septae. So the septae start to become very, a lot of pressure on them, and they start to become very rigid. And they're not supposed to be rigid. They're supposed to be nice and fluid and a bit more flexible. And they become very rigid, and they start to really pull down on the skin. So we already get one dimpling effect because of that. But then our fat cells start to really push from below. So there's where we have that orange peel dimpling look. So it's not just the fat cell that we need to target when we're treating cellulite. Sure, it's one of the components, but it's also that really tight connective tissue. And it's also the skin and how thick our skin is. So all of those play a role because we want to decrease the size of how many fat cells we have. And then additionally, we want to really make sure that the septae is very healthy and not rigid. And then we also, so these start to loosen so we don't have a huge dimpling effect when they become healthy again. But then also if we can thicken this area, if we can thicken the skin, then we have taut skin, nice thick taut skin. And that just helps control and hold everything really at bay into place and really pushing back down onto those fat cells. So we have a nice smooth appearance. And with the LipoElim serum, we're able to really target all of that. And that was very important to us when we were finding our ingredients is, first of all, knowing what is cellulite, why do women have it, why do we suffer from it so much? It doesn't matter how thin a girl is. It can be hormonal conditions and fluctuations that's happening that she has cellulite. So understanding all of that, the anatomy and what goes behind cellulite was important to understand then what ingredients that we add to the LipoElim serum to get optimal results for that. Not only just contouring, but also cellulite. Okay. So now we'll go into our DermaFuse serums. No, just one serum. Okay, so, well, first I added this, so I guess this talks about the serums. So just so you guys know that all of our serums are very sterile. They come in a sealed glass bottle that needs to be broken open. So it is very hypoallergenic, very sterile. We use very non-irritating ingredients. We were very, very careful and smart with making sure our ingredients were not only efficacious, which they are very efficacious, but also safe. We wanted to make sure that we chose the correct derivatives of ingredients to be efficacious. But with those derivatives, we wanted to make sure that we used a very smart percentage of a derivative. Like, let's say we were using vitamin C, we need to be very safe on the percentage of vitamin C we're putting into serums, because too much, you can have a major allergic reaction. So we've never ever got into that problem because our percentages are safe, but also very efficacious. Okay, so based on purest high quality ingredients, all serums contain vitamins, minerals, proteins, healing agents, and then also glycerin and water. So glycerin is used to really make it a higher, so it's more viscous, meaning when we put it on the skin, it's not just going to evaporate. We need a little bit of time to get all of those awesome ingredients into the tissue. So we need to make sure that it doesn't just evaporate as soon as we put it on the skin. So by making it more viscous, that glycerin is able to really make sure that everything does not evaporate, but also to make sure we can do the treatment comfortably by gliding on the skin. And then water, of course, to interact with the electrical current that we're using. Okay, so now we'll go into the LipoElim. Okay, so LipoElim, the indication is for anti-cellulite and body sculpting. It can also be used on the face, though, which is phenomenal. So jowls, submental fat, we see really great improvement with that. I'm so sorry I do not have before and after photos for this area on this PowerPoint, but we did put them in our white paper that's going to be published next week, and I'm sure you've probably already seen some on social media too, and the results are just really impressive. And then if you just imagine pairing that with the V form, just the results are really outstanding. Okay, so yes, cellulite on the body, yes, body sculpting on the body, but also for the lower face. And I'm additionally looking into how the LipoElim will really help treat under eye either edema, so lymphatic problems, so puffiness under the eyes, but also a true fat pad that has really migrated into the lower eyes as we get older, and how it will work with that. I'm thinking, because I've read up on some studies, that it's going to be very, very, very awesome for under eyes. Okay, so our action, it encourages lipolysis. So what it's doing is it's blocking a signal that comes from adipocyte cells. So when adipocyte cells, they are enlarged as much as they can be enlarged because they've stored as much fat as they can store, they will send a signal for the maturation of new adipocyte cells. And that's what we do not want, right? We do not want these signals to be happening to mature and start to create new fat cells in the area. We want as little as possible. So what it's doing is it's blocking that signal. And the ingredient that does that is this. It's Chenopodium quinoa seed extract. So Chenopodium quinoa seed extract. That ingredient blocks that signal to stop the maturation of new adipocyte cells, and it also will help with restricting the blood flow in the area. So when new cells, whatever cell is becoming, a new cell is starting to form, it needs blood, right? It needs life to it. So this quinoa seed extract also will stop that and really decrease the amount of blood flow in the area, and will also stop the signal. So we're not getting as many new adipocyte cells in the area. But additionally, it helps stimulate lipolysis. and you guys probably have already heard me talk about this a lot, lipolysis is that natural process of the body breaking down that fat in a fat cell and then using it for fuel. So it's what I talked about earlier. It's stimulating that. It's stimulating the natural lipolysis within the body. So not only is it blocking the signal and restricting the formation of new adipocyte cells, but it's also helping the existing adipocyte cells and stimulating the lipolysis and the breakdown of the fat in those. So that's why it works so phenomenally for cellulite and contouring. Butylene glycol, that is an ingredient that really helps retain moisture in the skin, and it also helps the breakdown of all of the other ingredients, making sure that we get a deep depth of penetration and a proper breakdown of those ingredients. But it really helps retain moisture in the skin, which is going to be huge too. And then we have two other ingredients. So really quick, let me keep talking about the Chenopodium quinoa seed extract. So those are the two things that it does for fat, but it has additional benefits too. It helps with the overall extracellular matrix and making sure that it's functioning really well. It has vitamins A and vitamins E, so that's going to be huge for like antioxidant benefits, for healing properties. It's shown to overall have just great skin rejuvenation benefits, helping fine lines and wrinkles. So really, Chenopodium quinoa is just a great ingredient overall. So it's going to help the overall skin quality, but then also it targets fat, which is what we want in the LipoElim serum. Then we have two additional ingredients that's also going to help the overall skin, and that's going to be hydrolyzed collagen. Now, hydrolyzed collagen, we can't actually put collagen in skin. Collagen is just a naturally occurring, thing that happens within our skin, within our body. But what we can do is we can hydrolyze collagen from certain sources. So it could be like animal hooves, animal skins, but we get our collagen from deep sea fish because it's the purest form. And what we do is so collagen is made up of amino acids, and we take the collagen and hydrolyze it. It's a chemical process, of a breakdown process, and we get it down to about 3 to 4 amino acids. Then it's small enough that we can then use it in a cosmetic way, and then we can put it into the skin. Now, it's not truly like putting collagen in the skin. What it's doing is when it enters the skin, the fibroblast cells receive it because it's amino acids. That's what collagen's made of. So it loves amino acids. So the fibroblast cells receive it, and it just tells those fibroblast cells to, hey, wake up and start producing collagen. But not only produce collagen, produce healthy collagen. So it's a really, really great ingredient. But of course, we have collagen in both the reticular and papillary dermis. We want the skin to be thick and strong to really create a very smooth appearance to the skin, so we don't see orange peel dimpling skin like cellulite. But also think of all of the collagen in the actual sub-Q, the adipose tissue, where our fat cells are. The more collagen we have, the more strength and structure we have to really hold those fat cells into place and hold them down, just like a man has. So it's helping in that way too. And then we have sodium hyaluronate. Sodium hyaluronate is a derivative of hyaluronic acid. So you can't really formulate with hyaluronic acid, because if you do, it's just like a big salt rock and you can't really formulate with it. So almost every skincare company in the world uses the derivative of hyaluronic acid, and that's sodium hyaluronate, which is easy to formulate with. But it still is hyaluronic acid. It's just a derivative of it. And again, HA holds 1,000 times its weight in water. So it's hugely hydrating. And the more hydrated our skin is, the healthier it is. Also, it's very taut skin at that point. And that's going to be very important, not only for cellulite, right? We need that nice, thick, taut skin, but we also want that for body contouring. when the Chenopodium quinoa seed extract does its thing with lipolysis and blocking signals of the maturation of new adipocyte cells, great, that's all happening. So we're getting shrinking of fat in the area, but we don't want loose skin after. So these other ingredients that we have put in the LipoElim is making sure that the skin is also being targeted with awesome collagen and awesome hydration and moisture and just overall rejuvenating benefits to the skin to make sure it stays really nice and tight as we start to shrink the fat cells down. Really exciting stuff. Super, super excited for this serum. I know you guys will be as well as soon as you start to use it. I added one before and after photo just so you can see. Oh, sorry, I thought that was the next thing coming. We do have our white paper now, and we are going to be publishing it in about a week. Just doing a little bit of the fine tuning on it, and then it will be out. But here, I just wanted to show you guys an excerpt of where it talks about the Canadian quinoa and that, you know, the minerals that the quinoa seed has in its iron, magnesium, zinc, vitamins, essential amino acids. And so you can see that visual of how good this extract is. Again, not only blocking that MMP9 signal that's secreted by the adipocytes that contributes to the maturation of new adipocytes, and then it's also that neovascularization. So we kind of cut off the blood flow to those areas to not really create new fat storing possibilities. But also, you guys can see in the white paper the percentage that we got of improvement. So I think it's great just to read over the white paper. And then it kind of breaks it down a bit more simplistically here. What is it doing and how is it working? But I think I probably broke it down simplistically enough. But just so you know, the full white paper is great. That area really goes through talking about the quinoa seed extract and how awesome it is. Okay, and then I added one before and after photo so you could just see. This was only after 4 treatments, so this is only a month because we're doing it. I think that's my next slide. Oh shoot, I forgot to add that slide. Oh, sorry, I'll just talk about it. So the treatments are done once a week. And the amount needed, it's going to vary because if you're using it with the V form, you may not need as many, not nearly as many. You may only need to do, 5 to 6 treatments. But if you're doing it as a standalone, it's typically about 6 to 10 treatments that are needed, done weekly. But here you can see this is once a week. And so this is only after 1 month. And how different. First of all, yes, the slimming effect is there for sure. But I also want you guys to see beyond the slimming effect is the dimpling effect. So you can see here the texture of the skin, the dimpling, and then when you look over here, that reduction is huge. And that is due to, making sure that we have that collagen formation, that we have that hydration in the skin to create that really just taut, thick, nice skin that's holding everything down and in place, and that smoothing effect. And then, of course, the Chenopodium quinoa is helping with the overall slimming effect and making sure that those fat cells are decreased. All right, so that is it for LipoElim. And I am so sorry about my dog. I've been really lucky. I think I've done, 40 webinars since the pandemic started, and not once did he bark. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm just so lucky. And of course, today I'm like, you know what, I'll just lock him up and he'll probably be a good boy. But I did hear someone knock on the door, so I can't be really mad at him because that's what dogs are supposed to do. They're supposed to bark when someone knocks. But hopefully it wasn't too much of an interruption. I tried to talk over him. All right, you guys. Well, thank you so much. Of course, we're always here for any questions that you have on LipoElim or the DermaFuse in general. You can always email us at info@vioramed.com. You can reach out to us on Instagram, Facebook, direct message us. So many different ways of reaching out, and we'll make sure to get back to you and answer all of the questions that you have. And I really, really hope you guys enjoy this serum as much as we do. I know you guys will. All right. Thank you so much for your time. And I will talk to you guys and see you guys, I'm sure, soon. Bye-bye. Thank you.